So, just for the record, since it's audio only, could you just state your name and character, please?
My name is Ashley Romans. I play 355.
Awesome.
The baddest character.
Literally about to say that. There's literally the strongest character I've ever seen.
Omar, then there's 355.
Oh! Hey, rest in peace to a great. Rest in peace to a great.
I spoke.
No.
I don't mean that.
But I think he would be proud of your performance, though, honestly. And I think how the character is written, I think he also would be proud of. Thinking that's something that he's been an advocate for. So I firmly believe that you're right on par for what you're saying. But I do want to, the more and more we got into the season, the more and more I was like, oh, she is unstoppable. But then you start to battle PTSD or of some sort. Was it a service for you to add that for that character and to make sure that those feelings resonated with the audience, considering that when you think about militant soldiers or agents and whatnot, that this is a global problem that they're dealing with that's not really talked about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I think you're absolutely right. The PTSD that 355 experiences tells you, the effects of war, the effects of, all the trauma that everyone's experiencing. But for me, as an individual, I can't really relate to the military. I've read books and I've spoken to soldiers and undercover cops and FBI agents. But what I could relate to in terms of trauma was survivor's guilt. What I think we all can relate to in the past couple of years that we've been experiencing is the kind of disorientation of where you are, especially when you can't do your job, when you identify 355 is someone who identifies so closely with her job that when the Coppa ring falls apart, she really crumbles and she's desperately looking for a purpose, and she finds that back in the system that is essentially crumbling. I mean, the U.S. government is crumbling in the show, and she's still holding on to it, holding on to the order. And it's not just her, not in terms of the system of the U.S. government, but she's holding on to her sense of control. And I think we all can relate to that, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, how do you feel 355 compartmentalizes by not having I think that's part of how she deals with it. Because that system gave her that.
For sure.
I think that's where a lot of her issues are coming from and where a lot of her struggles originated.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the head. I think one of the things that attracted me too is the immediate boundary that someone sets when they don't tell you their name. And I'm thinking, okay, why? What is it? What is it about her name what does it mean to her? And I realized, it's a boundary because it reminds her of her humanity. And I think too, we need to realize when we make someone a soldier or in the service of something like the U.S. government, you're stripping them of some type of humanity, right? Because they can't even treat other people like humans necessarily. And that's for every system, even in prison guards and prisoners, you see that all the time. So yeah, I think the name is kind of like I can't do my. It's also 355 was a real person.
Yeah, historically it was meant to disguise the fact that.
That there was a woman. It was one person, and that's what her name meant, lady, actually. And I think too, there's some pride that comes with being from that lineage of soldiers in service.
As I watched the show, I seen that 355, she didn't really trust anybody. She's basically doing whatever she has to do to complete her next mission. Do you think that would be something, if the situation happened, that it would need to go like that, or do you think that you would need to trust people more at the time?
Yeah, I think definitely learning to trust is a challenge for her and part of her arc, an area of growth for her. And I think because she's a person that does everything solo, she trusts herself. She developed so much self-trust over her years of working in the Coppa ring, but also, as you'll see, from her childhood. And so she trusts herself. And I think she expects other people to trust her to the extent that she would trust them, which she doesn't. So she's like, fine, you don't have to trust me. But she does. She's good at what she does. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the like stunt training or physicality of this? Because your character is so badass.
Well, I started before the pandemic, before I even got the audition for this role, right? I got the audition in August, and I started, when the pandemic just started, I started doing CSC Stunts, which is a online, well, it's not actually online, it's a London-based martial arts training program specifically geared for actors. It's based in London, Black-owned, and I met them through Instagram, and I was just doing stunts and kicks in my living room in March of 2020, and had no idea that it would ever be useful. But I just figured I'll do something for exercise while I'm in like the pandemic or quarantine. Add it to my resume, I don't know, feel good about myself, and then they were asking me to do all this.
So, piggybacking off of that, how intense is that when you're filming? Like, is it a lot of physical?
It's really intense in the cold, specifically because we were filming in Toronto during the coldest parts of winter. It was very intense because it's a whole day just to film one scene, like one fight scene, took the entire day. So we would stop for like one take, and then I would have to go back and be warm again, and you risk injury. And that was on. But by the time it got warm, there was no problem. Like I could have done that all day. I could have been out there. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I come out with one question. It's great.
Big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really want is that big old bell, big old bell, big old bell. All I really need, that big old bell.